What is happening, everybody? It's Trey here. I'm joined again by my dad, Sean, and we got another Pink Floyd review today. We listened to Dark Side of the Moon about a month ago.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. That was our first introduction into Pink Floyd. Now, a lot of people suggested that we move on to their next album, Wish You Were Here, and we got a review of that today. This is our first time listen of it, as it is with most of our albums on here, and this is your first time that you have ever joined us, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Here at Reactions to the Classics, we review classic albums in a track-by-track format. Largely, it is the first time we've ever listened to that album, so you're going to get a nice detailed review and get our first impressions of it at the same time. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. All that fun stuff to say, Sean. Let's dive into some quick facts.
Trey, this is their 9th studio album, released on September 12th, 1975 in the UK, the next day in the US. Keyboardist Richard Wright, guitarist David Gilmour says this is their favorite Pink Floyd album. This thing's number 211 on the Rolling Stones top 500 albums of all time.
It wasn't really highly acclaimed on the contemporary release, but has since, of course, been seen as a classic. And this thing was written by Waters. Again, very impressive. He deals with some big themes on here, just as he did with Dark Side. So a lot of big ideas and themes here rocking, and it kind of reflects his feeling that the camaraderie that the band had in the early days was largely gone. The success was getting big, so some interesting ideas here.
This thing was recorded from January to July of 1974 at the iconic Abbey Road Studios, number 3. They had a really difficult time. They said they went from 2:30 in the afternoon to late at night, which that would be the gig I'd want because I stay up late.
Exactly.
I wouldn't want this early. But they did that 4 days a week, so that's a long. And they said a lot of times in the studio early on, they weren't doing anything. They were playing games, they were drinking beer. They just couldn't get there. They were all 4 physically and mentally exhausted because of the success that you would alluded to.
Yeah, lots of pressure, I would assume, coming off a record.
Off Dark Side.
Being like, okay, now how do we follow that?
So they were there for a while before Waters started. This just kind of came to him, and he kind of wrote it over a few weeks.
All right, Sean, that's going to take us into Shine On You Crazy Diamond, parts 1 through 5. We get the remaining parts at the end of the record.
Yeah, this thing's 13 and a half minutes long. First lyrics don't pop up till the 8:42 mark, but it's well worth the wait.
Yeah, man, I just knew as soon as I heard the first notes, I was like, this thing's going to be epic. Just the cacophony of sounds that blended together through this whole thing was just amazing. And this was written as a tribute to their former band member Syd Barrett. We kind of went over him in Dark Side. There were a couple songs, Brain Damage specifically, that was written and alluded to him. And he was kicked out of the band in 1968 due to drug problems. See, he was starting to have some mental health issues as well, and though they wanted to keep him around, his behavior just kind of forced their hand, and there's kind of even a hidden meaning in the song. Syd, Shine On, You Crazy Diamond, so that SYD, so it's really a big tribute to him, and he's throughout this whole record.
Yeah, and Wright and Gilmour helped Waters write this. So Waters was a writer on every single song, but those guys did help on some stuff. One of the weird things that happens in life, they're recording this song, okay? And they're at Abbey Road and they're recording, and a guy wanders in and sits in the corner of the studio. This guy sits down, this guy is bald, shaved head, shaved eyebrows, heavy set. They thought he was a record executive. It took them about 45 minutes until they realized it was Syd Barrett.
Yeah, it was Barrett the entire time, just drastically different appearance.
Yeah, and they had a little interaction with him. Waters was so overcome with emotion seeing how he looked that it got him in tears. But just an interesting thing, and they never saw him again. All right, Trevor, now we're going to get into the actual song. The easiest way to do this, guys, is there's 5 parts of this song. We'll cover it part by part. Part 1, Wright, Gilmour, and Waters. It goes to the 3:54 mark. No lyrics on this. It fades in with the synthesizer and goes to a wine glass harp, which was recycled from a project that was kind of abandoned called Household Objects.
Yeah, and then we get a nice Minimoog synthesizer. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
I think you are too. It's on here a ton.
Yeah, it's a unique synthesizer and a unique sound to it, and was pretty striking and cool. And then we get a nice bluesy Gilmour guitar solo. The guitar on this is unbelievable, man. Just very groovy. That's the word I have for it.
It, man. You got a nice 70s word.
Yeah, just 70 word. Yeah, it's just a groovy guitar solo. Very technical and just a lot of emotion behind it, and then it kind of just takes us to part 2, which is about 2.5 minutes long. Again, no lyrics, and the signature on this is what's been dubbed now as Syd's theme. It's a 4-note guitar sequence on the electric guitar. Sounds really cool, and that kind of backs this entire portion of the song.
It does,
out.
and it reappears later.
And then you got some good drums and bass in here, and it ends with another great guitar solo by Gilmour.
All right, Trey, that takes us to part 3. It's about 2 minutes 15 seconds long. Got that Minimoog synthesizer again.
Yet again.
Sounds great. They have a little drum variation from part 2, a little more low key, and then it goes right into another Gilmour guitar solo and fades right into part 4, where the lyrics appear. It's about 2.5 minutes long.
Yeah, and I like the lyrics itself. Like, it just kind of comes in nice and low key. And the first thing, remember when you were young, you shine like the sun. Just like, Barrett, obviously back in his younger days, was better than what he would be later on.
Yeah, he wrote most of their first album. Like, he was the founder. Like, he was.
Yeah, and it just has a bunch of allusions here to Barrett and just how, you were a martyr, all this stuff. All these, imagery type phrases that really just make you think.
Agreed. I love it. I think it's really good.
And then after we get all those great lyrics, we go into part 5, and we also get a nice saxophone solo.
Out of nowhere, man. Really good.
It was awesome. Like,
really
you had everything from the brass instruments, great guitars, good drums, the synthesizer, just everything meshed on this song, dude. It was epic. And at the end, you hear like a ho-hum of a machine going in. And one thing I like about Floyd, dude, is the transitions they have from song to song are just so seamless that you don't know, like, like this song's ending, another starting.
Yeah, it's an art form, so it's like one continuous thing.
Yeah, one continuous piece of music that's just going and going, and that takes us into the second song, Welcome to the Machine, which this, Sean, it's unique, doesn't have any drums in it. It has a bunch of synthesizers yet again, but they're not in a way, you hear some songs from back in the day that utilize synthesizers a lot. It sounds a little dated. This still sounds fresh in 2019. Sounds great, and
but they balance it with the acoustic guitars in this, and I think that's a good balance.
Yeah, that helps it out a little bit, I think. And again, just love the instrumentation behind this. And this is about how we're just cogs in the higher-ups machine, essentially. Another theme that was kind of prevalent on Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, and it's really targeted at record executives, talking about the Jaguars and fancy restaurants, and just how basically the record execs will tell you whatever. Oh, you're going to be a big star, you're going to be all this, and they promise you the world. And really, they're just trying to earn off your back.
Yeah, exactly. And the way Waters sings it, he's like, welcome to the machine, just kind of like in a sing-songy way, but you can tell there's like, oh man, like, he might be singing it well, but I know behind the
there's a lot of emotion.
Yeah, the machine's not a good thing. So
not at all.
All in all, another great track.
Great. Yeah. We're up to track number 3, Have a Cigar, and this was written about the hypocrisy of the music business.
Yeah, Waters has stated that this was his follow-up to Money, one of my favorite tracks from Dark Side of the Moon. And the lyrics here are kind of funny in the sense that you can just imagine. It talks about a record executive making all these vague, outlandish promises to this band, Pink Floyd, essentially, that, oh yeah, we're going to do all this great stuff for you, but at the end of the day, it's just going to put more cash into their pockets, and that was kind of the inspiration Waters said behind it. After their success at Dark Side of the Moon, the record executives trying to reach into their pocket.
Exactly, and I mean, this "Have a Cigar," he says in the song, it's basically just wealth. Here,
exactly.
Here, you're all right, son. Here, have a cigar. He's just telling you whatever you want to hear. And this thing's more straightforward rock. It sounds a little different than the other ones, but it's fantastic. And the interesting thing on this one, it's only the second song they ever used a different vocal. Roy Harper, who was a friend of theirs, was recording in the Abbey studio right down the hallway. And so neither Gilmour nor Waters, they both tried vocals on this. Their voices were just shot. They went down and asked Roy. Roy said, sure, man, I'll weigh this thing down. He weighs it down, and it is a tremendous performance.
Yeah, and then the song ends with another great guitar solo by Gilmour. and then it gets at a lower volume, and you almost hear kind of like a pulsing, and like it's almost like you're hearing a radio.
An AM radio for all of you who are my age back there remember that.
And that segues right into, oh man, I think the best Pink Floyd song I've heard thus far.
Agreed.
Wish You Were Here. This thing was unbelievable, and the transition was just so sick. It's like you're tuning through a bunch of AM radio stations. It's like you got to strain to hear a little bit, which is cool because once it finally starts, like you almost envision a guy just sitting back with his acoustic guitar, then he starts playing it as he's hearing the radio, and then you know, it just gets louder and louder, introducing the entire band. And this thing is really highly acclaimed. It's number 324 on Rolling Stone's top 500 songs of all time. And dude, like, this thing was unbelievable. Just the sound behind it, and I think it's the best lyrics on the album.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of different interpretations I think you can have on this song too, depending on where you are in life.
Yeah, many think this is a tribute to Syd Barrett.
Yeah.
And they've said that kind of over different times that it is, but there's also a little differing there. Waters says he described the lyrics as being directed at himself, and his lyrics often are. Gilmour, on the other hand, admitted that he never performs a song without thinking of Barrett the entire time. So who knows? Like you said, it can be to whoever you want. It can be about whatever you want. It is off the charts.
Oh, it's
off the charts.
It is awesome, dude, and I just like the soothing vocals, like first.
So good.
Do you think you can tell?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of my probably, I don't even know, I've never sat here and ranked my top. It's probably one of my top 25 favorite songs of all time after I heard it.
It's just beautiful, man. I can like picture this being played at a funeral as well, just like of a variety of different situations, and I just think that's one of the strengths of Pink Floyd is they don't say a bunch of lyrics necessarily in their albums, or at least the albums we've listened to, but when they do, they're meaningful, they're powerful, they deal with things that matter, they're not fluff. Amazing track, definitely my favorite on the record.
Agreed.
Then at the end of Wish You Were Here, you start to hear some whooshing wind effects, just like you're out on an open field, the wind's coming through, and that takes us right into Shine On You Crazy Diamond, part 6 through 9.
Yes, sir.
The ending suite to our opening track. And this thing...
It's 12 and a half minutes long.
Yeah, 12 and a half minutes. So all in all, it's about a 25-minute track. As the wind starts to fade away, you have Gilmour coming in on the bass guitar. Waters adds another one with a nice riff pattern that was pretty catchy to the ear. And then we get a synthesizer after a few measures, and then you just get a bunch of drums and rhythm guitars coming in.
And Trey, at the 4:39 mark, we get the lyrics again. Same type of situation. The lyrics don't last nearly as long.
So shine on,
Yeah,
you know.
great.
I just thought it was really cool, and it comes kind of midway through the track, which is nice, kind of builds up to the big lyrical, and then the rest of the song, you know, just goes back into the cool instrumentation, which is going to take us into part 8. And here, Waters comes in with a second electric guitar, really cool sounding, does some very unique, interesting things with that, and also Wright dominates on the keyboards here. That's kind of the key that stuck out to me in part 8, and segues us beautifully into the final portion of the song and the album.
Yeah, Trey, in this last part, part 9, Gilmour described it as a slow funeral march for Syd, not for his life, but for his career.
Yeah, just kind of all that artistic expression didn't have an outlet anymore.
Mason's drums play for much of this part, and the keyboards play for the final minute before fading out.
Yeah, and on the fade out, you hear a short keyboard section of See Emily Play. That is one of Barrett's songs from back in the day. So yet again, another tribute to their former band member.
And just a wonderful touch, just a wonderful reflection on the art that these guys put together, you know. And before we talk about our favorite songs, I just want to say that, you know, I never listened to Pink Floyd till we did Dark Side of the Moon, and you can check out that review. And this thing just goes right after. Like, you could put them on back to back.
I agree with you.
It makes total sense with it, and it is just tremendous. Just like I said on Dark Side of the Moon, if you've listened to that review, it all goes together. Don't put this on and listen to one song, although I was guilty of replaying Wish You Were Here about 40 times because I love that song. But listen to it in its totality several times. It is just tremendous. My favorite track, I already gave it away 50 times.
Yeah.
Wish You Were Here. I don't have a least favorite track.
Yeah, I'm right with you there, Sean. Really enjoyed this thing, and my favorite would also be Wish You Were Here. I really just like the epic Shine On You Crazy Diamond, though.
Yeah, it's
just
awesome, too.
In totality. Like you, I didn't have a least favorite track. I just think it works well as an album, as you said, and not necessarily as individual.
Yeah, it's just a piece of art, man. It's supposed to all go together, which brings us to, what'd you give it?
Overall score, well, on Dark Side of the Moon, in our initial review, I gave it a 9. If you asked me today, about, I don't know, 4 or 6 weeks later, I'd up that to probably a 9.5.
See, I would too. I gave it a 9.25.
Yeah.
I'd go 9.5 as well.
Just as, the music has a little longer to marinate and simmer. And on this, I'm going to go a 9.25. Just thought it was another tremendous follow-up effort to Dark Side of the Moon. It was nice, it was unique, it's something I hadn't really ever heard too much in music before, and I just love this thing, man. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 9.25 as well, with the little asterisk that I would have bumped Dark Side of the Moon up to 9.5.
Yeah.
Hindsight's 2020, right, guys? So I think Dark Side of the Moon is better than this album, but in the same way that if somebody gave me $1 million and somebody gave me 900,000,
Yeah, exactly.
the million's better, but it's so negligible.
They're both unbelievable. Just another great effort by Floyd, and we're going to be sure to keep moving on with them, go on to Animals next. So we're looking forward to that, man. And I guess that's going to about wrap up our review today. Sean, I appreciate you. This man gets all the research going. He spends time going through, Wikipedia, various other sources, diving through the lyrics, and that helps give you guys a great review. So appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, man.
And comment below, y'all. Let us know what you think of this album. Do you like it better than Dark Side? Where would you rank it in Pink Floyd's catalog? And be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. We upload twice a week. There's going to be something for everyone there in a variety of genres. So until next time, happy listening, my friends, and we will see ya.